Now, homeless at 16, Poppy Noor wanted to carry on going to school, so she turned to the state for financial help. Now 23, Poppy believes without benefits, she'd never have been able to continue her studies and make it to university. Yet the Chancellor, George Osborne, has said cuts to housing benefit for the under-25s are his next priority. All this week, we're featuring Britain's young and struggling generation, the first to be worse off than their parents. Tonight, Poppy's story.
Start it.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
My name is Poppy Noor, and I was homeless at 16.
Yeah, started from the bottom, now we're here.
If it wasn't for housing benefit, I would have never made it to university.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
That benefit may be cut, meaning that people in my position will have to choose between an education and a roof over their heads.
When you had like post-it notes.
Not everybody is as lucky as me. My brother ended up sleeping in a phone box.
Because the first decision that got back to me was that we can't give you housing because we think that you intentionally made yourself homeless.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
This is so jokes. On my first night, some woman came and like knocked on my window, and I came to the window and she was like, let me in, let me in. I was just like, what do I do?
I see. As soon as I went to university, I was really happy to be off benefits, and it was all kind of like quite a liberating feeling in terms of like, I'm like in exactly the same point as everybody else now.
Hiya. I went to 6 hostels in total, but have gone back to my favourite to meet a girl called Emanuela. She shows how, with the right support, people can turn their lives around. I asked her what life would be like without housing benefit.
I think I would have been dead. Basically dead, or depressed, or I don't know. Not in a good place.
Being back there reminded me how much I needed that hostel.
So for me, like, I had like best friends here, and some of them, like, because I was going to school and stuff, like I'd come back and they'd cook for me, and like we'd all just like, I don't know, like it was really nice. Like, oh, it's making me feel a bit emotional, but I really liked being here. It's really good.
That's good that you feel a bit.
Yeah, even though I'm crying. Yeah. It's a really nice here.
And Centrepoint are worried that the changes won't even save that much money.
Who on earth is going to decide whether a young person who's 16, 17, 20, 24, whether they can go home or not?
So we're just about to go into my old school and talk to a teacher that was really, really important to me, and you know, very much still a friend now, and someone that I really think was key.
You came to me and you said, "Miss, I've decided to apply to Cambridge. What do I do?"
Even with the housing benefit, there was a whole host of support I needed to make sure I didn't slip through the gaps.
I know you spoke about kind of having to go to King's Cross and pick up my ticket. The whole talking to me beforehand about not having holes in my tights before the interview that we always laugh about. Especially if you're not very confident and you're not very used to all of this stuff. Those things make you feel really supported. You don't have to go there and worry like, oh, do I look really weird? Because really you're thinking like, Miss Jones said, don't have holes in my tights, and I don't have holes in my tights, so I must look really normal. Like, that kind of thing.
I'm an extraordinary case, some might say. But remove housing benefits for under-25s and stories like mine will become more than extraordinary. They will become mere myths.
Well, Poppy joins me in the studio now, along with the Conservative MP and member of the Work and Pensions Committee, Nigel Mills. Well, Nigel, you heard Poppy's pretty incredible story there, but it wouldn't have had a happy ending without the benefits that you want to cut.
Yeah, but I think she was a real example to what you can actually achieve. And I think we should be, I suppose, careful to explain what the Prime Minister was thinking about when he trailed this idea, in that we've got 350,000 people under 25 on housing benefit. It's a cost of about £2 billion a year. But in the speech where he first trailed it, he did recognise there were some people in vulnerable situations who actually do need that help. So there's no plan to take off everybody in that situation.
So there'd have to be quite a lot of exemptions, wouldn't there, for people like Poppy, but also people who are parents? I mean...
I think clearly I think the system terribly fails people who are in care in that situation. The idea we could take them out of care at 16 or 18 and just throw them on the street would be completely ridiculous. I mean, I think there have to be exemptions for that sort of category.
Well, half the under-25s on housing benefits are parents and 4,000 are homeless, so there's quite a lot of exemptions then.
Well, I think we'd probably have to think through exactly how people you'd exempt, but I guess even half a £2 billion saving is worth having in the climate. But I think we should just think about the principle of this, is that, a lot of young people leave university, get their first job and have to live at home with their parents. They can't get a house on housing benefit. I think if we want to try and make a situation where life on benefits is the same as life at work, this is one of those steps. We can't give everyone a house in that situation.
OK, Poppy, it's all about the principle.
I mean, I think there's a few things that I'd say to that. I mean, I think, first of all, when you talk about a system of exemptions, I mean, in my situation, there was a system that meant nobody should stay on the streets for more than one night. But in reality, what that actually meant was you went to an authority that was incredibly overstretched, and they said to you to come back and look homeless, So when you say we'll have exemptions, how do you propose to make sure that people that really need the benefits are getting them?
Well, I guess you end up with some kind of severe hardship test or something which exists in other benefits already. But except it becomes discretionary and hard to impact. But
you don't seem to buy that.
No, I mean, I really don't. I mean, as I say, I've been through the system, and the discretionary systems they have, I think you have no idea of the hoops that they make you jump through, first of all. And I think, second of all, if you're enacting this policy in view of the poor people that have to go back home instead of go out and get a job, what about people that have no home to go to? You're going to send that... I think that was the point the Prime Minister made when he trailed this, was there are clearly some people who just don't have a home, either no home at all to go back to, or a home that's completely unsuitable to go back to, and they would need to be treated differently. And so how would you make sure that would happen?
Well, I think that's where I think we're early days of this as a policy. We haven't got the rules written out. But I think
so it's not been properly thought through, has it?
Well, I mean, we're still more than a year before the general election. This is talked about as a manifesto committee. It's not a government policy at the moment.
So has Poppy's story changed your mind?
Well, I think Poppy's story illustrates exactly probably some of the issues with this as an idea is how you have a policy which, yes, makes some of the savings that we need. I think you can clearly see where somebody has a safe and loving home to go back to, that it's not unreasonable to say you should go back home while you look for a job. But there are clearly people who are not in that situation.
But how do you clearly see that? What are you going to do? Go to their houses and look at their family relationships and decide based on that? How are you going to find out who has a loving home to go back to?
Except that's not an easy situation to have, but I think we're still spending £80 billion a year on welfare. We say we want to find £10 billion a year of savings. That's not an easy thing to do in any situation. We're always putting some people in a difficult position.
I mean, more than half of that money goes on the state pension, for example, yet that's being left untouched. All sorts of pensioner perks. Shouldn't we be looking at that as well as the under-25s?
Well, I mean, clearly state pensions are people who have paid in throughout their lives deserve a comfortable retirement.
Pensioner perks for the wealthy? What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's just incredible. The argument is it's a necessity. We have to make cuts. Apart from for this 50% of people who are clearly so much more important and who vote for us, by the way. I mean...
Well, I think once you've retired, you're not really in a position to go back out to work and start changing your own life around. The state pension would be £140. I think that's hugely generous.
I'm sorry, I'd love to go on, but we're out of time, I'm afraid. Nigel Mills, Poppy Noor, thank you very much for joining me.